And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Douding Thomas monthly recap for May of 2023. And I can't believe the year is almost half over. Joining me as always is Mr. Cliff. How you doing, Mr. Cliff?
Yeah, it's actually something you haven't even mentioned yet, but my eye is a little funky right now. It's my left eye, which I assume it's my left eye on here as well. But yeah, the pollen's getting me a bit down. But besides that, I'm good because I'm here to talk some foldable technology with my good pal.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a theme going on, at least for the first part of this thing. So my question is, and we didn't really discuss this off the air, but do we want to go chronological or do we want to go like, I don't know, excitement level? I mean, like, what do you how do you want to?
I don't want to front load it all. I think it's actually all pretty exciting. So
Well, yeah, but
it's dealer's choice.
okay, all right. Well, why don't we start off by talking about should we do Scrappy the review cam before it decides to
Sure,
fail on
yeah,
us again?
yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start off by talking about this is kind of a folding technology, not really, although it has its very interesting aspects to it. But we're going to be talking about, I just submitted my review of the Lenovo Yogabook 9i. And folks, I came this close to giving it the first 10 of my career.
I was
mean,
gonna say,
it
have you
was.
ever actually done a 5 out of 5 or a 10
I
out
have
of 10?
never done a 10. I have never done a 10. There's always something, there's always something like that. You're just like, but so this is very, very close to a 10. But anyway, why don't we go ahead and bring on Skippy's idiot cousin, Scrappy. This is Scrappy, the review cam. And,
Actually, it's Scrappy the not a review cam.
Scrappy the not a review cam. Okay, and then we need to hit the button over here to make it a little bit bigger so that everybody can kind of see it. So this is Scrappy. The reason this is Scrappy is because we're not doing the overhead shot for obvious reasons. I mean, like this, where are you gonna overhead shoot this? So I mean, you can see a lot of like the messy cords behind my wall, but whatever. Anyway, so this is the Lenovo Yogabook 9i, and this is my new favorite laptop of all time. Now, I have to say, like, one of the other things that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk a little bit about WWDC that happened earlier today. And one of the things that came out of WWDC was a very tempting MacBook Air, which,
yes.
I mean, honestly, if it had two screens, I'd be sold. But it doesn't, so therefore I will not be.
And it doesn't fold. And
it doesn't fold.
It's definitely a little more plebeian in terms of and in terms of the design. So yeah, why don't you talk about what makes this so unique? It really, I would say it's unique.
I mean, you're looking at what makes it so unique.
Right, exactly.
But okay, so now the reason we have Scrappy the review cam is because I'm going to be able to pick this up and kind of move it around and get the angles that we need. It's not going to be like your static overhead shot. But I mean, okay, so this laptop, you're going to see so much crap that was set up behind this laptop. This laptop, as you can see, just looks like a normal everyday garden variety laptop.
I like that color.
It's a very nice color. Yeah, I didn't even mention that on the review, but yes, I do dig this color quite a lot. I'm having trouble managing the keyboard with one hand there. So, okay, so you add the keyboard case on the top here. Let's do a nice little top down shot. And so this is kind of your package for your laptop. And inside this case here, you have your Bluetooth keyboard.
Ta-da.
Which is extremely thin. I mean, like super duper thin. That's your USB-C port right there, and you could see the keyboard is just barely thicker than the thing. And one little minor, like very teeny tiny minor complaint that I had was like I'm a sucker for like low travel keyboards. Like you push the button and like it doesn't move at all. Like mechanical keyboards are like the devil to me. This almost has too little travel in the keys. Like it's real close. It was kind of like you barely feel like you're you're pressing the keys. But anyway, so this case here kind of folds into like this little triangle deal here with magnets. So there's a magnet here, and it kind of claps together like that. You can see, and it holds the pen back here.
I like how the stylus just kind of it's almost like a little tail for it back there.
Yeah, and you know what? I honestly never use the stylus. Like never. You would use the stylus a lot more,
maybe.
The graphics person, but anyway, then when you open up the laptop, you can set it right into here, and you have a dual screen laptop, which is like, it's really, I mean, it's so handy for like my workflow, especially because like the way my workflow works is like I keep all my busy stuff up here, like my email and stuff like that, and then like the stuff that I'm actually working on, like the piece that I'm editing or writing or something, is down here. Like research is up here. But you can also take this, and by the way, speaking of research, if you want to do a little bit of side-by-side research, you can also do that. Yeah. And obviously it flips.
It's got a lot of different postures it can do.
It has a lot of postures, to borrow the term from Microsoft. Anyway, so this is my main configuration. I should also point out that, before we get too deep into the weeds here, you can use this like a normal laptop. You can set it up like that, and the keyboard either snaps on like so. And when it does that, this is going to be kind of hard to see, but there's kind of
there's a faux touchpad on there.
There's a faux touchpad there, which I accidentally activated the regular one. But anyway, come on. It's not. Oh, you know what? It's because it logged out. Hang on 1 second. You don't get to see my my pin there.
Why not? You've shown everything else pretty much on you.
Seriously, right? Hey, at least I remembered to close my email. Anyway. All right, so when you snap on the keyboard, you can kind of see there's like a little kind of a faux touchpad down here that allows you
a big touchpad. Like it looks Apple-esque in terms.
Oh, you think that's big? What about bong? Now the whole thing is a touchpad. Anyway, and you can also take the keyboard and you can snap it on down here. And when you do that, you get like widgets up here. Now there's only 2 widgets for the moment. There's this one. This is like your Microsoft feed. And actually, whoa, how did I change that? I don't know how I did that. Okay, so there's this one, which is like your Outlook, stuff like that. And then over here is like your Microsoft feed, which is like those really addictive articles that Microsoft pops up whenever you open up a new tab in Edge. I don't know if you have those, but I have.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's
like
so clickbaity.
I know, but you know what? They work because I click on them always. Anyway,
here's a question for you.
Yeah.
So with those widgets,
yeah,
are they dependent on third-party developers to develop more?
They're dependent, from what I understood from my briefing. And granted, this is a hands-on briefing like 6 months ago, so bear with me if my information is not up to date.
Briefing was at CES, right?
Yeah. So like, from what I understand, these are going to be developed by Microsoft.
Okay.
And that's a problem because they are all Microsoft oriented. So like this is for Outlook, not for email. This is for, Outlook Calendar, not for Google Calendar, stuff like that. So like one thing I would love to see would be like to take this box here and turn it into like a mini web browser, so you could actually so you could actually drop in like a Gmail window or a Google Calendar window or something like that. That would be beautiful. That I don't believe that's in the cards though. So just FYI. Anyway, they said that more of these widgets are coming out this summer. And they're going to include like stock tickers and like weather and stuff like that. But anyway, so there's that.
I mean, honestly, I would say just really quickly that the fact that that Microsoft is developing these is a good thing, because I know for the original Yogabook that was like this, in terms of it being a foldable screen, like Lenovo basically had to do all the legwork.
Right. And
behind the scenes there in the software. So this bodes well for it.
Absolutely. Microsoft is getting on board with the whole multi-screen train. But anyway, so like when I was in the car earlier today, I had the keyboard up like that, and I was using this as a mouse tray, and obviously it's a touch screen, so you can move stuff up and down like that. But I use the trackpad down here and the mouse and whatnot. So
how's the palm rejection on the screen, since you have to kind of have your hands pretty far up there?
I haven't noticed any problems with it, but that doesn't necessarily, I mean, I've been using it for like 3 weeks now. Right. This was my one and only laptop when I went to New York City. So, which we'll talk about that in just a little bit.
Yeah. And I also, I know I have all these questions, but you and I haven't talked about this other than just, I have read your review.
Right. Right.
Just as like an aside, because I know that it looked like when you did your pictures for the article that you did in like a library.
Yeah. I mean,
So you've had it out in public, and I wondered if you got any like odd glances or if anybody actually asked you about it.
Not really. And I think the main reason is because when you're out in public, you're not really using it in this configuration because it's usually going to be on your lap. Although actually, like where was I working? There was like a coffee shop in New York that I worked in for a couple of hours, and surprisingly, like nobody really asked about it. No, it was the airport. That's what I'm thinking of. It was the airport.
Okay.
Waiting for my flight on Tuesday, and nobody really asked me about it. And what the hell? But anyway,
I hope that you used it on the airplane in that configuration.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I fly economy, sir. There is no there is no way that that's going to happen. Anyway, so I use it mainly in this configuration when I'm at a table, when I'm at a desk, stuff like that. And obviously, I've got it kind of sitting up close to me so I can type. But there's one other like little trick that I liked that I think really shows that Lenovo put some thought into this, and that's if you use 3 fingers and you tap on this bottom screen here. You know what? There's some kind of software bug going on here. Oh, okay, that's like a window. All right, I've got like a bunch of these windows open here. Sorry. Anyway, so when you do like a 3-finger tap, you get kind of like a faux touchpad here that you can move around. And the reason that's important is because Microsoft has been doing touchscreens for about 10 years now. Microsoft has
been doing touchscreens since the late 90s, early 2000s. They were just resistive touchscreens.
Microsoft has done capacitive touchscreens now for about 10 years. But what Microsoft has not figured out yet, to save its soul, is how to replace a mouse with a finger. So like there's some stuff where you can like tap and hold, and that's kind of like a right click. But there's like certain apps like Trello where, like, if you're familiar with Trello is a user interface where you have like cards here and you can like drag them from column to column.
It's like a cascading to-do list. Basically.
Yeah, I think they call it like a Kanban in programming lingo. But so like what you do is you click on a card and you drag it over to the next column. It says now I have to do this task or whatever. You cannot drag cards in Trello with your finger. Like it just doesn't work for some reason. I don't know why.
Weird. That is really weird. Are you using it in the browser or on the desktop app?
In the browser. I didn't even know there was a desktop app, to be honest. So maybe that might be a good way to work around it. But so what I ended up doing was whenever I had to or when I had to select something, I would bring up this mouse here, and I could click and drag around windows and blah blah blah. So I could drag around Trello cards and what have you. And then like one other nice little software trick that you do is if you're dragging a window and you're kind of bringing it down towards the other one here, you see this little icon that pops up here. If you just drag it on top of there, it like spits it down to the bottom. And then down here,
Scrappy is actually frozen.
Oh, Scrappy froze. Okay. Oh, you know why? Because Scrappy went to sleep. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's show that again. So if I start moving this towards the top of the screen, the little icon appears there, and I can just boop and spit it back up.
Oh, very cool.
Or you can actually do like a flick, and the flick works like 60% of the time.
60% of the time,
it works every time. But if you could flick it, it could go down to the bottom, and same, you can flick it up. Come on, flick it back up to the top.
In theory.
In theory. And I've even had some success going in a downward direction, not upward, but if I go downward, I can get it to, like, you know, if I try to go, it doesn't work going up. But if I go downwards, I can make that happen.
So we've seen all the neat tricks, all the party tricks that it has, or at least a lot of them. But my questions are, and this is maybe something I should have asked at the beginning, but
sure.
Specs. So those are, it's if you have it as one large screen, then how is it versus, like, what are the sizes of the two individual screens, and then, like, your internals in terms of RAM?
13.3 inches for both screens. The base is a little bit thicker than the top. I think you can, let me see if I can position that here, but you can see it's a little bit thicker, like, because that's like where the battery is and stuff like that. And interestingly enough, that 3-finger tap only works on the bottom half. It doesn't actually work on the top. I can't do a 3-finger tap up here to get a thing, because it won't work. Now, you might think to yourself, well, why would you want a mouse pad up here? Like up here? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Okay, correct. Well, it still doesn't work over here.
Oh, interesting.
So you have to, I guess if you're right-handed, you have to make sure that the thicker side is on the right. So that way you can, yeah. Okay. So anyway, so that's like one minor little hiccup thing. In terms of, like, internal specifications, it is a Core. This one is a Core i7 13th generation or Core i9. I don't remember off the top of my head. And it's 512 gigabytes of storage, and I believe 16 gigabytes of RAM off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And so, like, and that's all great.
Definitely the ultra low voltage.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, look how thin that is. I mean, you definitely would expect that.
Yeah, and I was talking to a friend of mine who does, like, you know, like real serious, like hardcore desktop applications, like 16 gigs of RAM. I don't know. But like, you're not going to edit videos on this. Probably you're not going to. You could do some sound editing on here. I never had the opportunity
to do
editing
on this. It just wouldn't be a beast. I mean, you would definitely be rendering for a while.
it would take a while to do the rendering. That is for surely.
But that 13th generation Intel Silicon is supposedly beastly. I mean, I haven't seen you know. Anyway.
Yeah. And then the obvious caveat, like, before I told you a damn thing about this laptop, the most obvious weakness you could probably see would be battery life, because you're powering not one, but two 13-inch displays. This comes with a 68 watt charger in the box. So that's the charger right there. You can see it's not tiny, but it's also not huge.
Not huge, yeah. It's about the same size as your MacBook charger, maybe a little bit bigger, or a MacBook Pro charger.
I mean, I don't have a recent MacBook Pro, but I would say it's actually a little bit smaller than a MacBook Pro charger. But anyway, so my general use cases, I work 10-hour days when I'm doing my day job. So my general use case was I would plug this in overnight. I would use it until when I took lunch around anywhere between noon and 1 o'clock. And I would close the laptop and plug it in for the hour that I was on lunch. And then I would fire it back up at the end of my lunch, and I would be able to get to the end of a day.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's overall not bad. Like, it could be a lot worse, honestly. Oh, is that your MacBook charger?
This is a MacBook Pro charger, but this is also the 16-inch
okay.
model, which I think this is 100 watts. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything I can, like, hold up here to, like, put it in context. But not really. Anyway, so, like, that's like the one glaring downside is the battery. Sure. Like, if you, and even if you have the keyboard up here, oh, you know what? The other thing I never showed you was if you do an 8-finger touch on the lower screen,
like you're giving your laptop a massage.
Right, exactly. You get a virtual keyboard that you can type on, and like this keyboard down here, you can use 8 fingers to drag it down to the bottom and you get those widgets back up at the top.
Very cool. Huh.
So yeah,
it's a lot of neat little software tricks that
right
could have not could have
worked
been good
at
ideas,
all,
but not implemented well, right?
Right. No, Lenovo put a lot of thought into this.
And here's a question: so you reviewed the precursor to this last year or 2 years ago, something like
the folding, the X1 Fold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so conceptually similar, but the glaring part with that, which made it almost unusable with the Bluetooth keyboard, was the repeating keys. Did you experience that here?
Not a problem at all.
Woo!
Not even
Nice.
not even a little bit. It was beautiful. Like when I came into this review, I said there's going to be two obvious downsides to watch for. One is going to be the Bluetooth keyboard. The second one's going to be the software. How does that shake out? And neither of those concerns bore any fruit. They were both perfectly fine. The only downside that I found of this laptop was the obvious. I mean, there were kind of like little picadillos here and there, and read the full review. I'll put a link in the show notes to the full review on /gear. Huh? Yeah, little picadillos. So like there's a couple of like little minor things that like are easily overlooked. So check out the full review and you'll get like my full thoughts on this. But for now, this is a good like little 15-minute preview of of the thing. And so I think we can go ahead and put Scrappy to bed now.
Good night, Scrappy.
And we can go ahead and get on with the rest of the show, because this was my primary laptop while I was in New York. And you might ask yourself, what were you in New York, Adam? What were you doing there?
Curiouser and curiouser, she said.
Yes. And if you haven't been following my work at /gear, I don't blame you, I guess. But if you haven't, then if you have been following my work, you'll know that I was able to go hands-on with the Motorola Razr, which this is not that. But this is the Galaxy Z Flip.
Very similar in the lines, though.
Similar, yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I was telling people on the trip, the reason I switched over to the Galaxy Z Flip about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, for a couple of different reasons. One, I knew the Razr trip was coming up, so I wanted to refamiliarize myself with the Flip form factor. But also, I've been watching a lot of Burn Notice, which is a show from like the mid 2000s, and everybody in that show uses a flip phone. And I'm like, man, I want a flip phone.
So you can smack it.
So you can be like, I gotta go, ma. Bam.
Yep. I do miss that. I do miss that.
So
it's kind of like when you had the Palm Pre, just as an aside, and when you slapped the keyboard shut.
Yep. Slapped. You got the exact. It is a similar. I would say not the same feeling, but
not the same but it was still satisfying.
It was very satisfying. So yeah, I went to New York on behalf of Motorola to go hands-on with the Moto Razr and the Moto Razr Plus. The Moto Razr is a lot like this guy. The Moto Razr Plus is not. So we could just talk. I did a whole hands-on piece with the Moto Razr, mainly focusing on the Razr Plus, because honestly that was kind of the halo feature there. But I did that for /gear.com, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. But do you want me to give you like a high-level view, or do you want to ask questions?
Just give me the 10,000 foot view of not just the phones but the event, and you can talk a little bit about your horror story that.
No, we're not going to talk about that at all. Actually, that is off the table. That is off the table. We're not going there. Okay. You and I could talk about that later, but I'm not airing that dirty laundry publicly. Anyway, so I flew into New York on Tuesday, and we had our briefing and content capture the following day on Wednesday. Although, funny story, when I first got to the hotel, I was walking in. I had just checked in. I had my my key card, and I had my suitcase, and there was a Motorola rep downstairs, not the one I normally work with, but one of them, who recognized me and said, "Oh yeah, come on, right this way," and like put me in the elevator, took me up to the 20th floor. My room was on the 11th floor. Took me up to the 20th floor, went over to the suite and said, "Okay, here we are. I think they just started with the briefing." I'm like, "Okay, my briefing's tomorrow." And she's like, "Oh, right." So anyway, that was just kind of a funny little side note. Very nice hotel. It was the William Vale in Brooklyn, which is like, and it's in between. I don't speak New York, so bear with me. It's in between like Greenpoint and Williamsburg, which is, to people that know New York, they'll know it's kind of it's two areas in Brooklyn. What the difference is, I couldn't tell you. Anyway, so it was there, and it was kind of nice because we barely had to leave the hotel because the briefing was in the hotel.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and actually where we had the briefing, they had rented a suite, and like they had a big patio off the suite, and like I said, I told the people that were with me for the briefing, I said, it's like this patio was made for product photography.
Yeah,
because like they had
that
like
went into the consideration for when they talked with the planning people at the hotel.
Because they had different backgrounds for everything. They had like different like textures. Like they had some like some granite stuff, and they had some wood stuff, and they had some cloth. And so it was great. You could take like pictures on like any background you could possibly want. And yeah, so they gave us about an hour and a half. I'd say after the briefing was over, probably about an hour and 15 minutes to just go use the phones, take pictures of the phones, shoot yourself with video with the phone, stuff like that. And I didn't do that last one, obviously, but it was kind of nice because a lot of these briefings, you'll have like 5 people all huddled around a single phone. Right. Like, let me see. Well, like Motorola had like just a whole spread. Like I had all 6 different color variants in my hand at one point, because and I was just like,
scary if I had been you, because I would have been really worried that I was going to drop one or more.
Well, when we first walked out to the patio, I picked up a Motorola Razr and a Motorola Razr Plus and said, "Okay, see ya." They wouldn't let me leave though.
Oh.
But yeah, they had people on hand to ask questions, and it was a very pleasant briefing experience. And then after that, after the briefing, completely unrelated, there were a couple of other tech mixers that were going on. One was by Qualcomm, one was by IFA, because IFA's coming up in August. Don't know if I'm going to that or not. Stay tuned. But so we managed to actually get to both of those. And it was when Qualcomm tried to go to their third bar at 1:00 in the morning that I had to tap out. But Qualcomm was very generous.
Qualcomm likes to celebrate.
They do. So it was nice to see Sasha C again, and a couple of other folks that I'd worked with at Qualcomm that I'd never met. So that was nice. I got to meet my old boss AJ from Digital Trends.
He's now with Qualcomm.
No, he's just in New York. So
Gotcha.
I met up with him and his girlfriend who works for Forbes, and it was all networking,
all
baby.
Yeah,
it's all exactly. Connected. And see, so the next day, there really wasn't much to do except wake up after way too little sleep and finish writing the hands-on. And then afterwards, I actually biked down to southern Brooklyn, which was a lot. New York is deceptively large.
Yes, it is.
Like you look at a map and you're like, oh, it's just right there. Oh, that's easy. It was okay, but my body was not ready for a 6-mile bike ride yet. Anyway, so I biked down to meet up with Michael Fisher because he wanted to do kind of like an embargo launch, an embargo dropping party, but which I was half an hour late for.
Went to like a coffee shop, wasn't it?
Yeah. We went to a coffee shop and then kind of just walked around Brooklyn for a while, and I forget how fast New Yorkers walk, man.
Oh, yeah.
They do not mess around. And so I asked Michael, I said, you know what? I cannot bike back up to northern Brooklyn. Will one of your magic boats get me there? And so he, because there's a lot of ferries. And so he taught me how to take the ferry back to Williamsburg, which was very much appreciated.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
Also, maybe a time to do some more. Well, you didn't have the review device in hand, but maybe take some video with something if you were reviewing something else.
It would have been nice, but no, so it's funny, like, and just like side note for me, like I think it was like 8 reviews in April and 9 reviews in May. So I am in the middle right now of a self-imposed review hiatus. I am not touching anything except the Moto Razr. Like I told my boss, like, Moto fine, Google fine, anybody else, I need a month. just let me take the month off and then we'll talk. So I'm going to do the review on the Moto Razr Plus, waiting for that to arrive. It should be sometime this week, I think. Anyway, and then getting back to the thing. So long story short, no, I did not have any devices to take photos with on the boat. Would have been nice. Didn't have any.
And you guys went to Cirque du Soleil. I can never.
So yeah, so it wasn't really Cirque du Soleil so much as it was a Motorola Razr launch event at which Cirque du Soleil performed. So, like, I don't think we were actually at the Cirque du Soleil venue. I think it was a venue that was set up to do like Cirque du Soleil stuff. And it was very hot. It was very crowded. There were no chairs. It was awful. It was not an event for me. Like, and I told my PR, my Motorola PR person, Kristen. Hi, Kristen. I told her, like, it wasn't made for me. It was cool, but it wasn't really a me thing.
Yeah, from the pictures you sent me, I'm like, it really doesn't seem like a you kind of event.
Yeah, it was fine.
Maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah, probably. Like the other journalists that I was with, they loved it. I'm just old. I'm old and I'm fat and I like to sit. Really, I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah,
I'm old and I'm fat and I like to sit. But anyway, so, and then when that was over, we went out to a couple of bars on the way back to the hotel, and once again went to sleep way too late. And then I woke up the next morning and used the Lenovo Yogabook for 4 hours, just doing like normal job stuff. And then I went back to the airport and came home.
Sounds like a nice little round trip. Now, I guess we can just, I know you can't talk too much about the product, but you want to just give us a little hands-on of your hands-on?
Yeah. So like the Halo feature of the Moto Razr Plus, obviously, is the cover screen, which I mean, I'm going to use the flip here as an example. Let me just take the case off of here because I don't know why not. The top half of this case never comes off very easily. But so like the Razr, which this is not, take this camera and move it down here and then make this entire thing your cover screen.
Right.
And
it's very attractive.
It is very attractive. And then, like, obviously when you open it, you've got the cover screen up here, and then down here is either Gorilla Glass Victus or vegan leather. Yeah. So, which the vegan leather is actually quite nice, and
I am digging that Pantone color of the year, like almost magenta color. It is so sexy.
I asked for the magenta version. We'll see if I get it because it would be really nice because it looks very nice. It looks a lot more red than magenta, to be honest. It doesn't look very pinkish. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see if I get it. But the other two colors are like blue, which is also quite striking, and then your basic black. And then on the smaller Razr, which again is actually a pretty good facsimile of it. You've just got the cover screen, which is like this size. Although on the flip, it's flat. On the Moto Razr, it's actually raised a little bit, so there's a little bit of a bump here. And then this is all vegan leather here. And so
on the minus,
on the I call it the Razr Junior. And I'm currently losing to Michael Fisher's Moto G Flip. But I'm going to defend Razr Junior as long as I have breath. But anyway, so the star of the show is the Moto Razr Plus, which like it's this whole screen. Now the cool thing about really all the Razrs is that Moto has never told you what you can and can't do out here.
Right.
You know, you can run an app on this little guy if you wanted to. You probably don't want to, but you can. And that's the same thing that goes on with the Moto Razr Plus. You can run any app on the outside cover screen, and it may be great. It may not be. It's kind of a better to have it and not need it kind of situation.
It also has widgets on the front too that are from Motorola that you can use.
Yeah. So there are 8 widgets, which let me see if I can remember what they are exactly. There is an app launcher. There's a quick contacts widget, so you can like tap on somebody's name and call them. There's games, which is not only games that are specifically designed for the cover screen, because Motorola built like 3 or 4 of those. Like there's a Subway Surfer clone, and there's like a maze game, and then there's like a sideways runner game where you like jump over stuff. Okay, and so it includes those games, but also any other game that you have on the thing. There's a Google Fit widget. There's a Spotify widget. There's a weather widget, a calendar widget, and there's one more. And I can't remember what it is. But come on, the fact that I remembered 7 out of 8 is not bad.
Not bad, for sure.
Go read my hands-on. You'll find out what the mystery 8th widget is. And the cool thing is when you have those widgets, you can turn on a little switch. You can turn it off too if you'd rather just enjoy your wallpaper, but you can turn on a little switch that gives you like little shortcut icons so that you can tap to any one of those widgets. You can tap like straight to it. And they also wrap around Samsung. So if you get to the end of widgets, you can just kind of flip one more and you'll get back to your main cover screen. They also have a lot of backgrounds that are designed specifically for that cover screen, including some like cartoon things that happen while you're. That. So that's kind of cute. Yeah. One other cute thing that they did for the cover screen was when you have your camera app open, you can have a little cartoon character appear here to like get kids to smile, basically. So you could be like, look at the silly little face over here.
Gotcha.
Snap,
right.
Which
have you seen there are now for cameras. I saw this the other day. I think it was on one of those like Instagram shopping things, but they make little stuffies that wrap around your camera for taking pictures of kids.
Oh, really?
It comes like a little monkey, and so I think it's actually a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, so like having had kids that are the age that's targeted towards,
right.
I'm dubious about how well it'll actually work, because I don't think it would have worked on my kids at all. Right. But it can't hurt,
Right, exactly.
It definitely can't hurt. And the same thing with the little cartoon deal here. The Razr doesn't have. I mean, like if you look at this, if you look at the what do they call this? The thing where it holds as its own tripod,
right?
Like
selfie mode.
Samsung has a name for it, and
right.
I can't remember what it is. But anyway, like this thing, you can put it anywhere you want it to, and it will just stay there. So like for Motorola, I want to say they said it was like 35 degrees. I think it was 45 degrees to 135 degrees. You can do that, but you can't do like. I mean, that's like 150 degrees right there. I mean, that's almost flat. For like most other flip style phones are just going to snap.
Yeah, they're just floppy.
Yeah. The crease is not really much of a problem. I mean, it's as much of a problem as it is on any flip form factor. So didn't you have a flip for like half a week?
I did. I had the original foldable Motorola Razr.
Okay, you had the
for a little
original
bit,
one.
and then I had a Flip 3 for a little bit.
Oh, okay, you did. Okay, 'cause I was gonna say, because like I know that you had one, but the hallmark of those were it didn't stand up like that. It was either open or shut, nothing in between.
Well,
So
I tell you, I mean, it actually has been a long time now that I think about it, since the original touch.
Was the original Razr? Yeah, Razr. It was 2019.
So yeah, it was right before the pandemic, and
yeah, it was a Verizon. To be fair, I'm pretty sure it was December 2019, but still,
it was a Verizon exclusive, which was horrible.
Yeah,
and it was severely underpowered, and the battery life was horrible, and then the hinge just made this creaking sound.
Yeah, yours got creaky. That's right.
Horrible.
That's right.
Yeah, that went back really fast.
Yeah.
I love the idea of it, as I did with the Flip 3, but again, I think the foldable form factor for me might be the fold, the
tablet,
like the tablet style. Yeah,
I get it. But yeah, I really did, and like I said, I've been using the Flip 4 for a couple of weeks now, and I kind of forgot how bad the battery life was on this. Like, it's not good.
It is not good.
I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not good.
Well, I'll tell you the difference there is that the Plus anyway has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Plus,
right?
Which is it is really good in my experience.
Shouldn't that be the same one that's in here?
Actually, yeah, it is.
I don't remember if this is a Gen 1 Plus or if it's just a Gen 1.
I think it's a Gen 1 Plus.
I think you're right. Yeah, so I think it's
they
the same
came out
one.
right when that processor came in, and they might have actually been some of the first phones to have it outside of China.
But here's the X factor.
Right.
Like I don't remember offhand what the battery size is on this.
3,600 milliamp hour.
Is it 36?
Something like that. Yeah.
So the Razr is right around that same neighborhood.
Right. I know.
Now the difference is with this phone, if you want to do anything, you need to do that.
True.
With the Motorola Razr, and I swear no, okay, I don't have my. I'm painter's taping that thing shut for at least a week while I do the review, because I am going to use the phone exclusively on the outer screen, because that's the point. See, it doesn't matter if you have a smaller battery when you don't have to power a 6.9 inch screen. Right. If you're just doing a 3.6 inch screen, that's not going to take up nearly as much juice, and you can do anything you want on this outer screen. The only difference is, and I think this might be a not a disqualifier, but that's going to be like your one caveat is it's not going to be terribly easy to take photos.
With that, and then for something in the browser or anywhere where you're going to have to type, and you're also viewing something that might get a little frustrating.
It gives you a full-size keyboard when you're typing.
I know, but it's also going to take up a lot of the screen real estate when you're doing it.
It takes up all the screen real estate. It actually gives you like a little box up here to type in, and like the rest of this is your keyboard. So you can't really get context for the conversation. So remember what you're talking about before you start typing.
Exactly. Or even just putting in a web address in. Like, to me, that's where that might be, what breaks you, and you go to using, at least for a little bit, the large screen. Now, some of the things that I saw with this that maybe, and I also have a question, but first of all, the fact that it's not, it does not have as high of an IP rating as Samsung's
IP52.
So basically,
whichever
dust resistant and water splash resistant, right?
Right.
Although it does have that nano coating.
But Michael Fisher in his hands-on pointed out that this is the first foldable to have any kind of dust resistance, which is kind of nice.
That's awesome. Anytime you're dealing with that hinge, yeah, for sure. And then my question was, because I'm sure that it was in your hands-on or in something else I read, but because my caveat with my hang-up with buying any Motorola phone is the lack of software support commitment, and I think they committed to like three OS up. I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember if I put that in my hands on or not, but yeah, it was 3 and 4. 3 years of operating system upgrades, 4 years of security. And
that's pretty good. For Motorola, that's really good.
Right. And assuming Motorola keeps up with that, because, a lot of companies, I'll be honest with you. Do I have any idea whether or not Samsung is still upgrading the Galaxy S21 Ultra? I have no idea.
Right.
Like, Samsung could have stopped updating that. I would have no clue. And like, I would venture a guess that 90% of the people in my profession have no idea if the S21 Ultra is still being updated. Maybe one of our viewers knows. Comment down below. But if you have an S21 Ultra, check to see what the.
I am not going to remember that you asked that, and then I'm going to see the comment and I'll be like, "Why are they commenting?"
What are you talking about? The S21? What's where? We're talking about the Razr, people. No. Anyway, no.
That would have been a good clip. Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, they committed to 3 and 4. So we'll see how that shakes out in 2026.
Yeah.
But
by which time you will have no idea if it's been.
I can promise you I will not give a crap. Anyway, yeah, so but Motorola does recognize that is an important aspect, especially when you're buying a foldable like this. Right. Rated for 400,000 folds, which is another thing I did not put in my hands on. But I asked
what does that actually equate to in terms of like the average person, I wonder?
Well, if you
math in the head time.
I mean, if you open it and close it 100 times a day, it's 4,000 days. So that's 10 years, give or take.
Most likely much longer than the length of that phone will be used.
Right. I would say much longer than the useful life. But I mean, who knows? It's there is a real possibility that in fact there's a likelihood that some of these will probably go bad. When you first open it up.
I do remember in Michael Fisher's hands-on, he said that there were 3 layers of plastic underneath the thin folding glass, which is pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and so like, and the thing is, like, Motorola as a company has put a lot of engineering effort into making durable glass. I mean, you remember a couple of years before the first Razr came out, they had that
plastic.
Well, right, but a couple of years before that first Razr came out, Motorola had the Moto Z2 Force, I believe is what it was called.
Oh, that's right.
Where with like the unbreakables, the shatterproof screen.
Another Verizon exclusive.
And a friend of mine was actually one of the engineers that worked on that glass.
That's right. Motorola is located in Chicago.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it doesn't surprise me that if it wouldn't surprise me if this thing actually did last for 400,000 folds or whatever they say.
Well, I'm looking forward to I know what did they announce, because I know that first of all the Plus is shipping before the Junior, right?
The Plus is shipping before the Junior, and I appreciate your support. And yeah, it is shipping at $999.
And then I knew it was $999 for the Plus.
They have not announced pricing for the small one.
My guess would be $799, but that's just.
There's a lot of speculation. There's some speculation, and actually there have been some rumors that suggested $699.
Really?
Yes. Huh. So what Motorola did say, and this was in Michael's video, and they told it to us too, but he's the one that actually pointed out in the video, so credit where it's due. The Motorola Razr Junior will be meaningfully cheaper than the $999 price point.
I mean, when you look at what the Plus brings to the table, in terms of, when you first of all think about, I think, to me, I've made this reference before, but the foldable to me is like a sports car or a fashion item. It's something that's not necessarily the most durable, not necessarily the most practical, although you can make arguments for the practicality of the folding and some things that you can do. But it's a talking point kind of thing, and so it's a boutique, and the fact that you can get that now at $9.99 with that screen.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a screaming deal, but it's at least accessible.
It's accessible, and the way I wrapped up my Flip 4 review was, if you're in the market for a tall phone,
right,
like a tall phone like this, but you want the extra utility that folding it and putting it into a tiny little pocket gives you, there's really no reason to not buy this phone, because it's the same price as the S20X Ultra or the S20X Plus, I should say, and as is the Razr Plus. So I mean, like, there's really no reason, if you're thinking about getting the S23 Plus, this should probably be part of the conversation as well.
I mean, I made the argument for Samsung that they should just ditch the Plus model completely from the S lineup.
Indeed, you did.
Yeah.
And which I successfly parroted in my review. So I thank you very much for that. But yeah, so I mean, that is the Razr Plus. And then one last little fun fact: when I got on the plane to come back to Chicago, I was sitting there in my seat, looking at my phone or whatever, and someone said, "Adam," and I looked up, and it was my PR rep that I work with all the time, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm sitting right there next to you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that was a really weird thing, and it was fun because
well, it makes sense. She was going back to Chicago too, so okay.
Yeah, but it was kind of weird. It was weird that we were on the same flight. It was downright bizarre that we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah, that is really weird.
But I mean, it was a small plane, so it was not statistically relevant. But I mean, if it was a 747, she was in the plane next to me, then yeah, different conversation. Then that's like just completely.
That and the fact that 747s aren't really in service anymore, so that would have been
really weird. So, Mr. Plain Smarty Pants. But anyway, so it was kind of fun that we got to sit next to each other. And like when she said that, I'm like, don't worry. I know how to mind my own business. So if you just want to chill out and like not talk shop the entire 2-hour trip home, I get that. So it was cool though. We had a
nice.
good time. Yeah. And I got to see my house from the airplane.
That's always fun. I've lived close to an airport a couple of times, and so that was anytime I would fly out of Greensboro, North Carolina, I would almost always see my house. Actually, it was usually when I was coming back, because the flight path was like right. You could easily see it.
Well, and it's funny because like the last few trips that I've taken have been like Hawaii, Las Vegas, from the west, and I live west of O'Hare. And this time I was coming from New York, which is east. And so like when I told my wife I saw her house, she's like, "Why were you coming from that direction?" I'm like, "I don't know, but we were."
Circle the airport sometimes.
It was kind of funny though, because like I told Kristen, I said one of the games I like to play is like, can I determine where we are from the air? Because and she was from north of Chicago too, so we were kind of like flying in each other's hoods, but I'm just like, yeah, so if I look down, I'm like, oh wait, okay, yeah, that's that. Oh, that's the high school. Okay. and like that's the lake by my kids' grammar school, and that's my house right on there, and that's the lake that's across the street from me, and that's my Home Depot. Like it was like really, it was kind of
enjoying this too much. I'm just kidding.
I loved it. It was fun. But anyway, yeah, so good times.
Yeah.
Well, so we were going to talk a little WWDC, but let's face it, we're kind of an hour into this, and people are probably sick of hearing from us. And that's okay, because we're
give overall impressions of what they announced, or maybe we just say our favorite thing that they announced.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. I have two, actually.
That's fine.
Two things. Both for the iPhone. I really like the contact card, the like the name.
Yes.
The whole concept of the name drop, the contact card,
basically,
and I like
the additions to AirDrop.
Yeah, well, but what the contact card is you can design your own. They called it a poster.
Right.
You can design your own poster. So when you call another iPhone,
right,
your poster appears on their iPhone. So you know what I'm kind of thinking?
Some mature content we have.
You are going to have to come watch the YouTube video for those of you listening to the feed. Just mark down 54 minutes. 54 minutes. I honestly might make that my poster. But anyway, but then they have the thing where you can like send your contact information by as Tony and you as Anton didn't Tony Nodge from Pocket Now. He was like, "You want the bump phones?" And you can bump your phones.
Oh, Anthony Denoge.
Yeah, and you can airdrop your contact information to another iPhone, which is kind of cool. So that whole concept there was pretty cool to me. And then the nightstand clock thing that they did for the iPhone, where if you put your phone on like a wireless charger and turn it into landscape, it turns into like basically a big alarm clock where you can like see the time, you can see calendar stuff, you can see alarm stuff, like from across the room, basically, because it's kind of huge. So like I thought that was actually kind of awesome, and probably about time.
I don't think I'll end up using it, just because any MagSafe chargers that I have are the phone lays flat, and so it's really useful for me. But
I have so many of those MagSafe chargers.
I bet you do. Yeah, I mean, I have.
I'm such a MagSafe whore. I'm sorry.
You know. You're not. I showed it to my brother, actually. I had my MagSafe case on and just my wallet, but then I started telling him about all the accessories, and I mean, he's been using iPhones for years.
Yeah.
And I just don't think he'd really bought into that. So yeah, he's now his whole family's MagSafe everything now, and like in 6 months he went completely MagSafe.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what about yours? What was your
the first one I thought was just someone who's been using an Apple Watch for almost a year, so like 8 or 9 months now.
Yeah, you're coming up on it.
Quick access to what are basically widgets. Like, as an example, let's just say you set a timer, and then you go back to your main home screen.
Yeah.
You can use the dial, the digital crown, to just kind of nudge up a little bit, and it shows you things like your timers, your fitness, basically just widgets for the things that you have running in the background that you use.
Yeah.
So it's
that's
quicker at a glance information. Yes, I like that a lot. Secondly, I'm actually legitimately excited now. And I won't talk about it in terms of what the features that I liked, but I got like that Apple feeling that like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is like unlike anything I've ever seen with the what's it called? It was their last product announced, the VR
the Vision
thing? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Now I'm interested, because honestly, I kind of thought you were going to write that one off.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
You're asking me, do I think it will be successful? I have no idea. I mean, we're so early. We're so early to the. Well, I mean, I kind of feel like it's going to be like the first Apple Watch in that,
or the first iPhone.
Yeah, in that, but to a more so degree in terms of just the price of access right now is very, very high, and which is $3,499 to start.
Yeah.
And the fact that it seems like the rumors are that Apple is selling this at cost, which I can kind of believe based on everything it's got in it.
Yeah.
But you know, is it something that I will buy? No, not right now. It doesn't add anything to my life that is worth $3,500. However, it's really the first augmented reality piece of hardware that I've seen that feels like more than an
Oculus.
Well, what am I trying to say? That doesn't feel like beta hardware.
Okay.
In terms of, it just feels very well thought out, very polished. It has the software to go with the hardware, including an app store and a developing. Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the first announcement. So much, and I really look forward to, the eventual hands-on, the eventual reviews, and the thing, and seeing what people do with it. But
yeah, I agree. I agree.
I feel like, you know, and they said as much in the announcement that this is, it's kind of in those pillars like an iPhone or the first Mac in terms of it being one of those pivotal products. And I mean, what their words were actually, it's the most innovative new piece of technology that they've ever created, or that has ever been created.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's
I don't know if I'd.
There's a lot of hyperbole during that presentation.
I counted five magical.
Five magicals?
Five magicals. Yes.
Nice. That's actually cutting down for Apple.
It is, especially for a new product.
So, I think there's. I think that. I think what I was telling people was they really appled it up. Like they took a headset, they took a VR headset, and they appled the hell out of it.
You know, and technically could be 6 if you count the fact that they brought out the head of the Magic Kingdom.
That's true. That's very true.
But yeah.
So like what they did was they took an Oculus Quest and they said, okay, what should this be?
Right.
And then they made their headset what the Oculus Quest should have been from the start, to be honest. Light, offload the battery into a thing, and a separate thing. You can see through it. You don't need controllers for it. Like I actually don't have a problem with controllers, to be honest. But I can see why people might not want controllers.
It's ease of access. It's accessibility, right? Because now you're not having to charge your controllers. You're literally just using your eyes,
your fingers,
and your hands. And yeah, so if that actually works as well as the demonstrations that they showed,
that's the big question.
Very cool. I mean,
that's the big question.
But here's the level of thought that went into it too, right? Because one of the things that I've always heard about, I've only used a little bit of. I used whatever the Google Cardboard actually. I used that, and I used Google's really cheap headset that they came out with years ago.
For the record, when I came out to visit you, I asked, do you want the drone or do you want the headset? And you said drone. So
I never got a drone, so
well, no, I mean to play with.
Oh,
and you're right. I think we never used either. But anyway, so go back.
But completely different. Oh, what I was going to say is wearing glasses is extremely uncomfortable. And they actually have the ability. They worked with Zeiss to create a program to put your prescription glass in there so that you can actually. Which I mean, that level of detail, that level of trying to make it comfortable and usable and worth the $3,500 that you're paying for it to start.
It's very Apple.
It is very Apple. So, and we'll talk more about this later, and I'm sure we might even have a guest.
I think we're gonna have to do that. But yeah, overall, I'd say it was a very interesting WWDC. I was a lot more interested in the phone stuff than in anything else that they had to talk about. But I also didn't get a chance to thoroughly watch it because I was editing pieces as they were coming out. So it's like, okay, I'm going to watch this. Okay, now I'm going to go edit this for 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to watch a little bit more and I'm going to go edit this. I mean, so
probably the biggest news from the first 30 to 45 minutes, honestly, is in terms of how it affects consumers. Outside of software, in terms of hardware that they actually announced or talked about, would be
the MacBook Air.
The MacBook Air, the 15-inch MacBook Air.
Yeah,
which there is definitely a place in the market for that. And
it starts at like $1,200. That's not bad.
$1,299. It's really not. I mean, considering that.
And they lowered the 13-inch MacBook by $100.
$999. Yeah. Although every time I see that, it's on sale for $100 off. So.
Well, sure, but still.
but here's the thing, right? Yeah. In order to get a larger screen. As an example, for like my mother-in-law has a 16-inch MacBook Pro because her eyes aren't great. So she has a $2,300 laptop when all she really needs is a 15-inch MacBook Air because there was nothing in between.
Right.
So this really fills a need in their product line. And then, I will say actually not so much the Mac because they finally announced a Mac Pro with
Apple Silicon.
Apple Silicon, which I know there's a huge demand for that out there. It's niche, but That hasn't been updated in a long time, but actually the Mac Studio, the M2 Ultra processor, and the fact that you can get up to 192 gigabytes of RAM in that is a beast.
Yes, it is. But that's a prosumer thing. So that's not really for, you or me or pretty much anybody watching this podcast.
But just it's nice to see. Apple kind of comes in waves with outside of the MacBook Pro in terms of updating their Pro stuff. And that used to be their bread and butter, honestly, for Macs were creatives and studios.
Yeah.
And then then the MacBook Air started selling really well years ago, and Macs became much more popular. And then the Pro stuff just didn't get updated that much. As an example, there isn't a 27-inch iMac. There's only the 24-inch. So even still, there are still some gaps in their line, especially with the Apple Silicon. But it's nice to see the Pros getting some love again.
Right now, Cliff is just trying to figure out how to get his employer to buy him a Mac Studio. But anyway, all right. Well, while we contemplate that age-old question, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode of the podcast. And please consider subscribing to this podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click that subscribe button and smash that bell so you can be notified of new episodes and reviews as they drop. And if you want some early access, jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the Doud. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes, but most of all, and as always, I would like to thank you all for listening and for giving us the benefit of the Doud.